I'm on the Google VR SDK GitHub page, and I'm going to click on the commits because you can see the version 1.5 has been released 17 hours ago. So we could click on the commits and we could see Google VR SDK version 1.50 is released. And there's 74 changed files. We could go through this list, but that would take a really long time. So let's just import the pack, take a look at it. We got to look at the GVR Unity SDK. Version 1.5 is released. It enables the Daydream of the Cardboard app. And then we're going to look over here for the updates. I've actually got this link opened right here. But migration to Unity 5.6. It has some notes on how to do that. And let's take a look at the release notes here. We got the Google SDK, Google VR SDK for Unity version 1.5, May 16th, 2017. Versions of Unity older than 5.6 are no longer supported. So you're going to have to update Unity to 5.6. And the reason why is, of course, that the Google VR is supported natively in Unity 5.6. So if I enable the virtual reality supported option, I can select Cardboard or Daydream. As of version 1.5, you must be on Unity 5.6 or later. So the GVR Viewer main will be replaced by GVR Editor Emulator. The editor preview is now mono, not stereo. So we're no longer going to get the split screen stereo. Now when we play a Google VR app, it's full screen like all the other VR platforms are, like Gear VR and all that. So that's kind of nice. We don't necessarily need a stereoscopic view in Unity anymore because we know it's good. We're going to have it when we build to the device. The instances of GVR VR main will change to GVR Editor Emulator automatically. This will not affect on-device builds. So this script again is going to go away. It's going to be replaced with this one. And then be sure you follow the upgrade instructions. We could take a look at that. But let's look at the additions. The Daydream Keyboard is now supported in Unity. So the Daydream Keyboard is a app from the Google Play Store. And it is the Daydream Keyboard. You could use the Daydream controller to type on the keyboard. People don't look too happy about it, but I don't think they're actually Daydream users. That's the problem. But anyways, that's the Daydream Keyboard. So me personally, I don't have the Google Daydream. So this is I can't talk too much about it because I don't have it. And but it's supported in Unity, so that's cool. Users need to update the keyboard app on the Play Store. Added distance attenuation feature to the GVR audio sound field. Added set scheduled start time and set scheduled end time methods for the GVR audio source. Add spatial blend to audio sources to control the contribution of distance attenuation and Doppler effects. Change the GVR audio source occlusion computation method to use a cached list to avoid dynamic memory allocation, and they fixed the audio spatializer plugin registration issue in runtime on iOS. So those were the additions for 1.5. I didn't cover the 1.4 updates because it was pretty minor. So you can check the screen here to see what was updated in the previous version, Google VR 1.4. But again, there was a lot of the fixes in the audio. Nothing too critical, especially if you're not developing for Daydream. That being said, we also we got the release notes. We went through those. Well, this is the upgrade instructions that are pretty old, so upgrading may be a little hands-on. There's not too much instructions for that. So I'm going to make a new project with Unity 5.6, and I'm going to test Google VR 1.5 and just import that Google VR package. What I did was I downloaded the repository from GitHub. So here on GitHub, I went to download that zip, and then I extracted that zip to my hard drive right here on the desktop. And inside of there, there's a Unity package. So I'm going to copy this folder, and then in my Unity, I'm going to say import package, and we'll bring in this Google VR for Unity package. Now, I'm not developing for iOS or for 32-bit platforms, so I'm going to deselect the x86 and the iOS folders and the plugins. I don't need those. And once these are done importing, the first thing that we're going to need to do is change the build target to Android. And this actually got me confused when I first got Google VR at 1.5, because if you don't do this and you go right into the demos under the scenes and GVR demo, there's this error message here. Well, it says you need GVR native integration, and so when I hit play, I still get that message, and I'm holding down Alt. I can't move the camera. It doesn't seem like it works, and it doesn't know that it has GVR native integration because I haven't gone to the build settings and switched it over to Android. And now that I've set it as Android, I can go into the player settings and select the virtual reality supported button. And the list is empty, so I'm going to add cardboard into the list. And now that error message should go away. And if I hold down Alt, I can move the camera around. And this is the default Google VR scene for cardboard that we're all used to, where we have the cube that's interactive, and you click on it and it teleports. So everything's great here, and we have Google VR 1.5 working. We can look at how the input is all set up. But without getting into that, let's move on to the next scene. The problem with the keyboard demo is I don't have the Daydream, so I can't test with the controller, but apparently this supports the Daydream keyboard if you have the app, and I can type on my keyboard and the text shows up here, so that's cool. But other than that, I don't know what to do with this scene. And there's the permissions demo, which actually I think this one wasn't working. I kept having errors, and I'm getting null reference exceptions, and it's coming from the GVR controller main from this ARM model. And again, I don't have the Daydream controller to test that out. Same thing happens in the scrolling UI demo. We just get null reference exceptions. And then the video demo, same problem. Now, if you're looking for 360 video, I haven't been able to get this Google one working. There's another GVR video player Unity package here that you import, and I actually got through that, but then there was still errors. And so I've already developed solutions for 360 video, so I've had a lot of problems with the Google VR solution. And all I can say is, if you want to do 360 video, take a look at my 360 video player, because that one actually works. And so I'm sure this one does too. I just haven't been able to get it working, and I ended up using Easy Movie Texture or Unity 5.6 video player component and put that onto a sphere with some controls, and then I made that available on the asset store because that seems to work pretty good. So the only demo that I'm able to use here is the GVR demo, which is the same old teleport the box around demo. And other than that, this is all stuff that has to do with the Daydream. That's going to get into this Google VR SDK for Unity, the main page, and I'm starting myself the question, because I'm not developing for Daydream, what's the point of using the Google VR SDK at all? And so it's well, let's find out why. So that we get the head tracking, the stereo rendering, detecting user interaction, automatic stereo configuration, distortion correction. These are all things that are built into Unity now. So here's some of the stuff that you get, I guess, if you actually use the Google VR SDK. and that is Daydream controller support inside of Unity, spatial audio rendering, a dot prefab with some gaze interaction examples, VR emulation in Unity's edit play mode because you can hold Alt to rotate the camera, a demo. We just looked at the demos, and an FPS display, and that's it. So given the fact that again for my own for our own packs on the asset store, where we've developed a lot of solutions for mobile VR already, like how to move in mobile VR with the mobile VR movement pack, and then how to interact in mobile VR with the mobile VR interaction pack, and this includes the dot for interaction, as well as a lot of nice options that Google VR doesn't have, like object outline, interaction distance, so that you're close enough, examples of how to interact with the UI. So in other words, if you need a dot and an interaction, a gaze input module, for me personally, I prefer this pack to Google VR. And then the other thing that we get is spatial audio rendering. There is a free spatial audio engine in the Google VR SDK. However, there's a lot of there's a lot of good spatial audio engines that we can use. If we go to the Unity Asset Store and we looked at spatial audio engines, there's a lot of them there. Here's a really good one, for example, which is a spatial audio engine, of course. And then I used to use one called Impulse Sonic, and Impulse Sonic was actually acquired by Steam. So yeah, you can see that Impulse Sonic was acquired by Valve, and now that has become Steam Audio, which is something that I haven't used yet, even though I used Impulse Sonic, so it should be the same, but this is now Steam Audio, and you can see that Steam Audio has support for Unity. So we have a nice spatial audio engine called Steam Audio now. It used to be called Impulse Sonic. There's other great engines on the Unity Asset Store. There's another one from Two Big Ears, Two Big Ears was acquired by Facebook, and for their 3D audio. But we can still get the 3Dception is a 3D audio engine for games, and it works on Unity. So there's all kinds of spatial audio options. There's all kinds of dot prefabs for gaze interaction, even from ourselves, Mobile VR Interaction Pack. Of course, all of our packs, you can rotate the camera by holding Alt. That's just kind of a default thing that we all do now in VR. And we don't need the demo. And the FPS display prefab is nice, but it's easy enough to just grab that one script if you want it, or use a different FPS script. I like the advanced FPS, and they actually have a VR world space mode now, so I prefer this for my FPS. So all that being said, for me personally, I don't see a reason to have the Google VR SDK anymore at all. There's nothing in it that I wouldn't. I would use something else for this. I would use something else for this. And then you get down to Daydream support. Now, I've personally decided not to develop for Daydream. The reason why is basically it doesn't look like it's very successful in the consumer world. And some simple examples of that here. The Daydream VR software isn't selling well. There's multiple articles about that, how Daydream apps just aren't selling the units. Consumers aren't using the Daydream. And here's another more recent one from just about a month ago, where the virtual reality porn data suggests that Gear VR is 13 times more popular than the Google Daydream. So of all the users using the VR for porn, the Gear VR is 13 times more popular, and you could say that porn is one statistic, but really that's probably a good measure of how many people are really out there using a VR device. And the same type of thing could be seen if you look at the Gear VR. If I type in Best Buy, which is a popular electronics store, you'll see that the Gear VR has a 4.4 rating with 5,500 reviews. And I think this reviews is basically a small ratio of actual consumer reach. And so 5,500 reviews. And then if you look at the Daydream, you'll see that it only is a 4.2 with 229 reviews. So ridiculously less amount of consumers, it appears, are using the Daydream than it is for the Gear VR. That being said, I don't know a lot of successful Gear VR developers. It's not like Gear VR is an amazing platform where you just make a VR app and you make a bunch of money on it. I don't know any. I can't name one developer that I know who's successful making any significant amount of money whatsoever on Gear VR. So if the platform that's 13 times bigger than Daydream, there's really no success stories. I can't see why I would develop for Daydream outside of just a hobby, and I'm just want to do it for fun. So another thing here is that Google has launched the Daydream Elements Android app for developers to help them with VR apps and games. And again, it seems, while it's amazing, and I appreciate that Google is developing stuff to help developers, I don't know if incentivizing all these developers to start developing for Daydream is a good thing if those developers don't get paid for their time. In other words, if we're all going to go start developing apps for Daydream because of these tools or whatever, and in the end, are we going to get paid for our time? And if not, then why develop for Daydream? But you can learn more about the Daydream Elements here. There's a Google Play. It's on Google Play. It's had a couple of downloads, and basically it's if you have a Daydream, learn about principles and best practices for developing high quality virtual reality experiences. And the VR principles covered as locomotion, menus and virtual controls, and rendering and lighting. Again, this looks like a really cool place to learn about that. And if you want to learn even more about that, as far as locomotion, we have of course, the mobile VR movement pack, where this is of course a huge study of how to do locomotion in VR. And the next topic that it covers is menus and virtual controls, and that gets into the mobile VR interaction pack, where of course we have the UIs and all of the controls. And so I also have videos on rendering and lighting, but none of my stuff is going to cover Daydream because I don't have Daydream. So this may be a really good app for people who are developing Daydream, and it definitely looks like some cool examples to check out. So that's the update for Google VR 1.5, and I probably won't be covering future releases of the Google VR because as of this release, I pretty much don't see a need to use the Google VR SDK anymore for mobile VR development outside of Daydream development. So yeah, I probably won't be covering future releases of Google VR unless it has helpful tools for the regular mobile VR developer who isn't looking to target Daydream. Because at the end of the day, I want to be successful, and I want you to be successful, And I don't believe that that Daydream is going to be a path to that. Maybe. But I know at one time I had jumped on board and started developing for Ouya. And while it's a cool gaming console, again, just developing games for the Ouya didn't turn out to be financially successful for the developers who did that. So it seems to be a similar piece of hardware. Maybe I'm wrong, and I definitely want to see some cool mobile VR headsets come out in the future, whether they're from Google or another company. So maybe I'm crazy for not developing for Daydream. Let me know what you think in the comments. I want to know what you guys are working on. What maybe most of you are doing this for a hobby, not for a business. So you're more interested in Daydream, or maybe there's something I don't know about the Daydream 2, or something that Google's working on to make the platform take off. I don't know. All I know is I'm trying to be successful, and like I said, I want you to be successful. So let me know what you think in the comments about where mobile VR is at, what we should do to be successful, what platforms we should target, or maybe it's time to just go back and build a regular video game for Steam. So I don't know. Tell me what you think below. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.